Good morning, everybody. In your little bag, you will see this wonderful presentation, which I'm going to talk you through. It's just a little Excel sheet. Okay. Right, just a little bit, very, very briefly about myself. I've been sort of knocking around print since Moses, I think. I was very good friends with Caxton and various people like that. So I've picked up a few tips. I'm sorry I don't have a PowerPoint presentation for you. I don't understand computers. We put things on paper. So when everything that Adrian's done, or part of the stuff that Adrian or whoever has done, comes to fruition and you decide that you're going to print something as opposed to various other forms of media, there are a few tips which I'd like to talk you through. Ignore the first example for a minute, we'll come back to that. So we'll go to the golden rules. The first rule is, it does depend to a certain extent on the project, to be honest, but generally speaking, plan in advance. Most designers will involve a printer either with you or behind the scenes to make sure that what they're doing is the most cost-effective way of actually producing the product. There are a number of examples I could tell you over the years of customers that I've dealt with that print the same thing every year, different designs, but they have 4 or 5 campaigns, they have various other bits and pieces going on, and the number of times I said, why don't you plan in advance? You can print them together, some of them. Save a fortune. We'll go back to that with the examples that I've put on the little graph at the beginning. Next thing I would say is if you're buying your own print, talk to a printer about possible options to changes to specification. Now, for instance, I had a customer last year who we changed the size of their brochure, their leaflet, by 2mm. Literally 2mm, that's all it changed, saved them just over £400. Another customer who had printed a brochure that they sent out and they were over the postage size. It cost them £6,000 extra in postage for 5mm over the size. It's really quite scary. Talk about specifications to your printer, because he will say, look, do it this way, it'll save a bit of money. And you might say, well, I don't want to do it that way. Well, that's fine. But I think a good printer will give you costing options on formats, sizes, shapes, etc., etc. And then it's up to you to decide what you want. These are not in any specific order. This is what pops into my head. Order sufficient quantity. Again, it's very, very often false economy. If you're printing a large number of leaflets or brochures or whatever, every year, you say, well, they didn't actually go very well last year, it wasn't quite as busy, perhaps the market's shrinking, da-da-da, and they come back 3 or 4 months later and say, well, actually, we need another 1,000. That's going to cost you a fortune. It's far better to throw 1,000 away than to have, it's much better to do that than run out, because if you come back and you need them reprinted, the cost of setting up a modern printing machine, whether it's a big printing machine like the ones at my company or a smaller printing machine, it's still expensive. So you can very often get something like a 32-page brochure if you ordered one, which is a silly example, I know, but one would cost you £700, whereas 10,000 would cost you, £4,000. So you can see the equation. Reprints are expensive, try and avoid them. Going on to sort of looking at your printer, I think if the print project is worthwhile, which as far as I'm concerned they're all worthwhile, whether they're 50 quid or 50,000 quid, ask for a reference about your printer. Ask other people that have used the printer. Did they deliver on time? Was the quality good? Was the communication good? It's very, very important. And it's also, in this current state, this current sort of economic climate, do a credit check. We credit check every single one of our outwork suppliers. We credit check every one of our paper merchants, our ink manufacturers, because if you don't, you can end up with all sorts of problems. You can end up with things locked in by the receivers, etc., etc. And it's just, you know, it is just worth it for a £5 credit check with Experian or somebody like that, just to make sure you've got a financially stable company that you're dealing with. Schedules. Schedules are very, very important. If you've got a time-sensitive product, it has to be there for the Royal Mail. You're doing a mail shot because you want to get it out the week before your competitors are getting it out. Get a schedule. Tell the printer when you need it. They will then give you a schedule which you would have to adhere to as well. So it's worthwhile. Well, it's of paramount importance, you know, to actually make your contract that you do with the printer when they confirm the order, when you confirm or when you place the order, to actually say, this is the date I want it delivered, this forms part of the contract. Late deliveries can cost a fortune. While we're on to that, approve everything with your designer. Make sure you've got everything read and signed off. You like the colours, you like the position of everything, the phone numbers are all correct. The number of times that I've stood on a printing press with a customer and they're reading their brochure and I'm saying, don't bloody read it now. You change it now, it's going to cost you thousands. And it's happened, it has happened. One major company I remember about 10 years ago came all the way down to Cornwall when I was working for a printer in Cornwall. And they changed a huge run, literally. They were about a quarter of an hour, 20 minutes into it. There was £500 worth of print on the floor. And they said, oh my God, the phone number's wrong. Just don't even go there. It's really, really, really scary how much it can cost. I mean, I did a brochure once where they'd supplied the artwork, they'd done it themselves in-house, and they had 4 pages exactly the same, running after each other. And it's your fault, isn't it? No, it's not the printer's fault. If you give them 4 pages the same, that's what you'll get. So when the printer gives you a proof, if you're doing a brochure, you will have various types of proof, but what the printer gives you is what you're going to get. Generally, they'll give you a low resolution proof, which will give you running order of a brochure. That's a content proof, you know, which way up the pictures are, the type is correct, generally isn't colour correct. You can get high resolution proofs at a cost, which I mentioned in the terminology. That's the golden rule, don't change it after. Even at printer's proof stage, it will cost you money because a printer actually charges money to get it to proof stage. So if you're changing pages, it's usually going to cost you a 5 or a 10 or a page, depending. So it's really a waste of money. Ask about types of paper. It's a waste of money if you change it at that stage.